In this video, let's just try to understand how can we calculate the time complexity of a functionality which involves the conditional statements. For that, I have written a simple function called check and print. It will take the value of n. If at all if the value of n is less than 100, it will simply print that value. For some reason, if at all the value that is given to this function is more than or equal to 100, right, it will go on to this else block. As a result, in this else block we are running a loop from 0 till n, and in each and every step we are incrementing it by only 1. Ultimately we are printing the value. For example, let's just say if the value that is given by the user to this function is, let's just say 10. In this case, obviously, since the value of n, which is 10, is less than 100, right? So immediately our program will print 10 and it will get terminated then and there only. Otherwise, let's just say the value that is given by the user is 150. So immediately we will compare the n value with, if it is less than 100, no, 150 is not less than 100. Obviously, it will go on to this else block. On this else block, what we will do, we will run from 0 till, less than n. That means from 0 till 149, we will execute this for loop and we will print the values from 0, 1, 2 till 149 we will be printing. So here, the time complexity calculation is also not straightforward, right? In the previous examples, whatever we have discussed, there was no conditional statements. They were straightforward. All we were using, maybe we were running nested for loops or a simple single for loop, or we were running while loop in such a way that we were eliminating the half of the array in the case of binary search example that we have discussed, right? But here in this case, the time complexity calculation is also not straightforward. So here, if the value of the time complexity is also completely dependent on the value of the n that we are getting in the function call. If at all if the value of n that is given by the user is less than 100, we are only printing it, right? So this print statement will take only constant amount of time. As a result, the overall time complexity, if the value of n is less than 100, is constant. So the time complexity also we can say it is constant. Constant is nothing but order of 1, but this is if the n value is less than 100. If it is not less than 100, that means whatever the value that is given by the user is greater than or equal to 100, that means that we are running a for loop, right? For loop also we are running for all the values of the n, and internally whatever the print that we are doing, we are going to take only 1 unit of time. As a result, the overall time complexity for this else block will be n into 1, because the rule that we had for iterative statements will be the number of times it will be running. As a result, n into 1. So the else block time complexity will be n. So the time complexity, if the value that is given by the user is greater than or equal to 1, in that case the time complexity will be order of n units of time. Okay, if at all if we want to draw this in the graphical form, right? So on the x-axis we will have the size. Size is nothing but the value of n here, and on the y-axis we will take the time. So here, if at all if the value of n is less than 100, then the amount of time taken will be only 1. As a result, the graph will look something like this. Here on the x-axis, y-axis 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 something will be there. On the x-axis also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 everything will be there. And if at all if the value of n is greater than or equal to 100, in that case the time complexity is linear, right? And we know how the linear time complexities graph will look like as well. So this will be if n is greater than or equal to 100, and this will be if n is less than 100. Okay, but the overall time complexity is completely dependent on the value of n. That is something that you have to remember. So whenever we talk about the time complexities of such algorithms, we will be writing the conditional time complexity like this. Okay, so that's all the information you need to know on how to calculate the time complexity of a conditional statement.